episode 388. That's right, 388. This is Blind Magic in Alice Springs. Well, I can remember when I was putting the profile together for this series, and I really wanted to exemplify the fact that vision impaired people have amazing qualities to share with every one of you to ensure that you can spread those qualities, make use of those qualities, value add to your life and the life of those around you. So therefore, I coined the term the power of the things you cannot see. And it's true. And I've actually utilised that positive notion in recent times. If I can take you back to the episode when I interviewed my identical twin brother, who is also vision impaired, as you know. Now, he had a very, very nasty accident which caused him to lose his right arm and his right leg. Remember, in that episode, we were able to, or he was able to, impart the story to you about that accident when accidentally he ended up between the carriages of a train which was heading out of Richmond, and that train effectively ran over the top of him. And in an absolute miracle, he survived. A 1 in a billion chance of survival, but he goes on today. And he's doing wonderful work in Australia, in every state. And one of the powers that he engaged was the power of positive thought. When he became aware, when he was lying in between those carriages, waiting for the ambulance people to do what they needed to do to arrest his signs and symptoms to prevent death, he knew that he'd lost his right arm and right leg. So he employed an amazing degree of positive thought around the fact that he did not want to be told too much about the loss of his arm and his leg. He did not want to know what it looked like, and he didn't even want to know what it felt like. So he resisted the temptation to explore that matter further, because what he concentrated on was the fact that he was alive. So he pushed away the things that would make his mind descend and focused on the things that would ensure that his mind remained positive. Now, I've had to employ that in recent times. As you would be aware, I do have a permanent brain injury as well as my vision impairment. And the other day, I had a very unusual occurrence, which was probably another mini stroke. It's yet to be 100% defined, but it would appear that the evidence is pointing toward that scenario. So one of the interesting side factors of having a stroke is that you can develop facial palsy, which is sort of like a Bell's palsy scenario, where sometimes the left side of your mouth is not necessarily in sync with your right side of your mouth when you're talking. And certainly from a visual perspective, it can be seen. So the other day, I had a video taken of me in promoting this broadcast, and it was taken from an angle where that potential palsy was graphically seen. And I was pretty upset about this and wanted it deleted as fast as was humanly possible. Well, much to my shock and horror, the video was still there 2 days later. So rather than allow that anger to consume me, I decided not to ask too much about what could be seen on that video. So I started concentrating on the fact that I can talk, the content was good, the content was strong, the content was informative, and that's because I do have the gift of speech. That hasn't been robbed from me during these strokes. Very fortunate I am, extremely fortunate. So once again, the power of what you cannot see. Because if I can't see it, I don't need to ask. I would like to be informed if such a visual scenario is likely to be embarrassing to me, but in truth, I cannot see what others can, so it should never be my guiding light. The way to keep myself positive and moving forward is to absolutely concentrate on the things that I still have and do have and will continue to have, I trust. So as I said, the power of what you cannot see. We must always try to look at our assets rather than the deficits. We must always look at the positive things we have rather than the things we don't have. And we must always, in doing so, try not to allow ourselves to be distracted by the things that are going to make us overly anxious. Rather focus on the things that we absolutely know we are good at and that keep us strong, keep us powerful, keep us informed, and keep us having the ability to inform others. That's certainly going to be my focus. And it should always, when and if we can, be the focus of all of us. There are many people out there that have incredible deficits that are still doing amazing things. I remember when I was a young myotherapist and I was working in a polio clinic. And incredibly, there was an older man whose home and his only home was an oxygen tent. Yes, folks, that's where he lived. But incredibly, with his artistic skills, he created a little business. He was making little badges and trinkets and signs using his artistic skills and selling them out of this oxygen tent, and they were incredibly creative. He inspired me. He really inspired me. Even then, from my, when you're in your mid-20s, I think you are a little self-consumed, but that really woke me up. It really did work on the part of my mind that would ensure that I would never dwell in negativity, that I would always look to be productive, that I would always try and find a sense of purpose. That man is so inspiring. And even today, I do see all around me, and therefore all around us, people who are leaning and perhaps not lifting, and perhaps they are dwelling on the negatives rather than the positives. They're not wanting to seek a sense of purpose. I so wish they had had the experience I had with seeing that man doing what he was doing out of an oxygen tent. Yes, his home. He'd spent years in an oxygen tent. And yet he, with an incredibly strong will, was determined to do something to make his day more interesting, to ensure that he felt a sense of fulfillment and purpose and was able to give joy to others. Imagine the little child who received a gift from his mum or dad in the shape of one of his badges, knowing who had made that and the story behind it, because I'm sure the parents, good parents, would have imparted that story to that child. So that child was not just wearing a badge made by this incredible man, but it was a badge that would have motivated that child, I'm sure, to be someone incredible today. Because why would you not be? Why would you not be when you know that there are people out there that are doing such incredible things against the most insurmountable odds? So I complain less. I complain less. And I try and do my best to be the best version of myself I can become. And I carry with me all the positive experiences I can, that I always call upon when I find myself in a position where I may dwell in negativity. I'm determined not to go there. So determined not to go there. Of course we have our days. Of course we have our moments. We all do. And before closing, another circumstance whereby I called on such positive experiences. I was talking to one of my support team just yesterday, and again today, in fact, and I told him that, and we both knew that after a week or two of working together professionally, things weren't going all that well. They were not. But I actually, in one of my quiet moments that are afforded us here in Central Australia, I did change my thought processes where my relationship was concerned with this particular support worker, and I decided the one thing that I was determined to do was actually to get to know him better. Find out more about his story. And so I did. I started going on little walks with him and having discussions with him and finding out more about who he was. And in doing so, I found out that we had some shared experiences, obviously with different people, but we had some shared experiences which made me understand him more, which ensured that I believe we both have become better people as a result of that, and we certainly have developed a better working and personal relationship together. And so often we do get ourselves into a circumstance where we just decide we don't like someone, and often it's so unnecessary. It's born out of complete ignorance because we just haven't taken the time to find out who they really are. And when we hold up that lens, often their story has followed a very similar pathway to our own. And therefore, we begin to have a new understanding of that person. We always, I think, must try to find the good in someone, because I believe mostly we are good. And sometimes people hide that good underneath a veneer that may have been created through conditioning that we're not aware of. But if we take the time and just dig a little below the superficial things, often a goldmine of kindness is revealed. This has been episode 388 of Blind Magic Communications production.